Once upon a time in the bustling city of Evergreen, nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river, lived a woman named Elena. She was a graphic designer with a passion for vibrant colors and intricate patterns, working in a mid-sized firm downtown. Her life seemed picture-perfect on the surface. A charming house in the suburbs, a loving husband named Marcus, and dreams of starting a family someday. But beneath the facade, cracks had been forming for years, invisible at first, but now threatening to shatter everything. Elena and Marcus had met 7 years ago, at a charity gala in the heart of Evergreen. He was a successful architect, tall and poised, with a smile that could light up the room. Their connection was instant. Over glasses of wine and shared laughs about quirky art installations, they delved into profound topics. One evening, as they walked along the riverfront under a canopy of stars, the conversation turned serious. "Infidelity," Marcus said firmly, his eyes locking onto hers. "If it ever happens, Elena, promise me you'll tell me right away. If it's just once, a momentary lapse, and you're completely honest, I could find it in my heart to forgive. Trust is everything to me." Those words resonated deeply with Elena. They made her feel secure, like their relationship was built on a foundation of unbreakable honesty. It was as if Marcus had handed her a key to redemption, assuring her that even in weakness, transparency could heal wounds. She clung to that promise like a talisman, carrying it through their whirlwind romance, engagement, and marriage 4 years later in a quaint ceremony at a vineyard overlooking the hills. Life after the wedding was a mix of joy and subtle tensions. Marcus was ambitious, often working late on high-profile projects, but he had a way of steering Elena's choices, suggesting she skip girls' nights out because it's better for your career focus, or insisting on joint bank accounts for our shared future. Elena dismissed these as signs of his protectiveness, convincing herself it was love in disguise. They traveled to exotic places like the beaches of Costa Rica and the mountains of Colorado, creating memories that filled photo albums and social media feeds. Yet in quiet moments, Elena felt a growing sense of isolation, as if Marcus's world was slowly eclipsing her own. The turning point came 4 weeks ago, during an annual company retreat at Willow Lake Resort, a serene spot an hour's drive from Evergreen. Elena hadn't been eager to attend. The thought of forced team-building exercises and small talk exhausted her. But Marcus encouraged pushed her to go. "It'll be good for networking, sweetheart. You need to step out of your shell," he said with that persuasive smile. Reluctantly, she packed her bags and drove off, leaving him with a kiss and a promise to call. The retreat started innocently enough: workshops on creativity, group hikes through lush forests, and evening bonfires with s'mores and stories. But as the sun set on the second day, the atmosphere shifted. Cocktails flowed freely at the lakeside bar, and Elena, seeking to unwind from a stressful presentation, indulged more than usual. The alcohol loosened her inhibitions, blurring the lines between friendly chatter and flirtation. That's when she connected with Alex, a charismatic colleague from the marketing team. He was witty, attentive, and made her laugh in a way she hadn't in months. One lingering glance led to another, and before she knew it, they were alone in his cabin, entangled in a moment of passion that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The morning after, regret crashed over Elena like a cold wave from Willow Lake. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, eyes red from sleeplessness, whispering, "What have I done?" The guilt gnawed at her insides, a relentless ache that followed her back to Evergreen. Marcus's words from years ago echoed in her mind. Honesty could lead to forgiveness. She replayed their conversation endlessly, convincing herself that confessing was the right path, the only path to salvage their marriage. 3 nights later, back in their cozy living room adorned with Marcus's architectural sketches and Elena's colorful prints, she broached the subject. The air was thick with the scent of pasta sauce simmering on the stove. "Marcus, do you remember our talks about dating? Early on when we were dating?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. He set down his wine glass, eyebrows furrowing. "We had a few deep dives back then. Which one exactly?" "The one where you said if it happened once, and I told you right away, you could forgive me. That honesty mattered more than the mistake itself." A flicker of recognition crossed his face, but he nodded slowly. Taking a deep breath, Elena poured out the truth. The retreat, the drinks, Alex, she spared no details, tears streaming down her cheeks as she begged for understanding. The room fell deathly silent. Marcus's expression hardened, his jaw clenching. Without a single word, he rose, marched to the bedroom, and began packing his suitcase. Elena followed, pleading, "Please, talk to me. I know I messed up, but remember what you said. We can work through this." "I need to think," he muttered coldly, zipping the bag and heading for the door. "Don't follow me." The slam echoed through the house like a finality. The next morning, they met at a quiet coffee shop in downtown Evergreen, the kind with exposed brick walls and the aroma of fresh brews. Elena arrived early, nursing a latte, her hands shaking. When Marcus sat down, she jumped right in, reminding him again of his promise. But instead of softening, he let out a bitter laugh that sent chills down her spine. "You actually bought that?" he sneered. "I said it to test you, Elena, to make sure if you ever slipped, you'd confess and give me the evidence I needed." It was never about forgiveness, it was about control. Her heart plummeted. It felt like the ground had vanished beneath her. All those years, the safety net she'd cherished was a snare, meticulously woven to catch her in vulnerability. "You lied to me?" she whispered, voice breaking. "From the very beginning?" "Call it strategy," he replied, shrugging, his eyes devoid of warmth. "And now, with the prenup in place, this ends on my terms." Ah, the prenup. Signed 2 months before their wedding in a lawyer's office overlooking the river, it had seemed innocuous. At the time, Marcus presented it as a practical step for both of us, emphasizing how it protected assets they'd built together. "It's just paperwork, love. We'll never need it because we're forever," he'd said, sealing it with a kiss. Elena, blinded by trust, hadn't consulted her own attorney or scrutinized the clauses. Now, those pages haunted her. In case of infidelity, she forfeited everything: the house, savings, even spousal support. It was as if Marcus had foreseen this exact scenario, engineering an escape hatch that left her destitute. "I'm filing for divorce," he announced flatly. "You've given me the perfect reason. No mess, no alimony battles. Clean break." Desperation surged through Elena. She grasped his hand across the table. "Please, Marcus. Think about us, the trips to the coast where we watch sunsets, the late nights planning our dream home. The way you held me through my grandmother's illness. We can therapy this out. I love you." He pulled away, his smirk cutting like a knife. "Love? This was always about building something stable, Elena. You shattered that. And honestly, I wasn't planning to leave, but you've handed me freedom on a platter." With that, he stood and left, his footsteps fading into the bustle of the street. The days that followed were a blur of solitude in their once vibrant home. Elena wandered the rooms, touching mementos: a framed photo from their honeymoon in Italy, a handmade quilt from her mother, Marcus's discarded blueprints scattered on the desk. Sleep evaded her. Nightmares of betrayal, both hers and his, plagued her nights. She questioned everything. Was his affection ever genuine or a calculated performance? Had he married her knowing he'd one day discard her like an outdated design? In her lowest moment, late one rainy night, Elena texted Alex, not for romance, she wasn't that foolish, but for a sliver of empathy, someone who might share the burden. "Can we talk? I need to process what happened," she typed, hitting send. Before doubt could stop her, his response came hours later. "This is a bad idea. Let's pretend it never happened. Best for both of us." The words stung like salt in a wound. Alex, too, had abandoned her, treating their night as a disposable error, leaving Elena to shoulder the consequences alone. With isolation closing in, she finally called her parents in the quiet town of Riverside, 2 states away. Her voice cracked as she confessed over the phone the affair, Marcus's deception, the looming financial ruin from the prenup. "I feel so lost, Mom, Dad. Please, tell me it's not all my fault." There was a long pause. Her mother's sigh was heavy. "Elena, honey, what were you thinking? You had stability, a partner who provided. Throwing it away for a fling? We're disappointed." Her father chimed in, stern as ever. "Actions have repercussions, kiddo. You cheated, now face the music. Don't expect sympathy for digging your own grave." The call ended with Elena in tears, feeling more alienated than before. Even her family, who had once warned her about Marcus's controlling nature. "He's too possessive," dear, now sided against her, amplifying her self-loathing. Weeks turned into a monotonous haze. Elena consulted A lawyer, a sharp woman named Clara in a high-rise office downtown, who reviewed the prenup with a grimace. It's ironclad, Clara said. Infidelity clause is explicit. We could argue coercion or undue influence, but it'll be an uphill battle. Prepare for a fight if you want to contest it. Elena wavered. Part of her burned to challenge Marcus, to expose his manipulations in court, to reclaim some dignity and perhaps a fair share of their assets. She'd sacrificed her own career ambitions for his, turning down promotions to support his late nights and travel. But another part whispered defeat. You deserve this. Your betrayal started it all. Karma, she thought, a cruel teacher forcing her to confront her flaws. Yet amid the despair, glimmers of resilience emerged. Elena began journaling, pouring out her thoughts in long, cathartic entries. She reconnected with old friends like her college roommate Lisa, who listened without judgment over coffee. He's a master manipulator, Elle. You didn't see it because love blinds us, but you're stronger than this. Slowly, Elena explored life without Marcus. She took solo walks along the river, sketching the changing leaves as autumn approached. She enrolled in an online art class, rediscovering her passion buried under years of compromise. The house, once a symbol of their union, now felt like a cage, so she started packing boxes, envisioning a small apartment in the city center modest. But hers, one evening, as rain pattered against the windows, Elena sat with a cup of tea, reflecting on the ruins. I owe my mistake, she murmured to the empty room. The affair was wrong, a betrayal of vows and self, but Marcus's lies? His premeditated trap? That's abuse, plain and simple. Emotional warfare disguised as love. The divorce proceedings loomed. A storm on the horizon. Marcus's lawyer sent papers demanding she vacate the house within a month. Elena, with Clara's guidance, filed a counterclaim, alleging emotional manipulation and seeking to invalidate parts of the prenup. It would be messy, costly, but necessary for closure. In quieter moments, Elena pondered the future. Starting over. At 35 felt daunting, no savings, no partner. A tarnished reputation at work where whispers about the retreat lingered. But it also sparked hope. Freedom to pursue dreams deferred, like opening her own design studio or traveling solo to inspire her art. As the leaves turned golden outside, Elena stood at the riverfront where it all began, the same spot of their fateful conversation. The water rushed by, indifferent to her pain, yet carrying a message of renewal. This isn't the end, she told herself. It's a painful rebirth. I've lost much but gained the truth about who I am and who I'm not willing to be anymore. The story of Elena and Marcus wasn't a fairy tale with a happily ever after. It was a cautionary saga of trust betrayed, lessons learned in fire, and the slow, arduous path to self-redemption. In Evergreen, where new beginnings bloomed with every season, Elena vowed to rise, piece by resilient piece, forging a life painted in her own colors.